when you put the power in somebody else's hands, it's a lot more comfortable.
Of course.
Generally speaking.
Because you can hold them accountable, you can blame it on them.
Right, but to have faith within yourself is very, not only scary, but if you look at anyone who's ever accomplished anything in this lifetime, they've always had faith in themselves.
I'm not sourcing this faith from somewhere else. It's coming from in here. The understanding that you are experiencing the illusion of separation while being an interconnected collective of consciousness. The future exists in fields of probability. Therefore, every aspect of the moment that allows for the free will of humans to come together. When someone's consciousness isn't ready, they won't even be able to hear you.
I'd like to welcome to the show Asil Toksal. How you doing, Asil?
Good, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing good, my friend. Thank you so much for coming down to Next Level Soul Studios, man. I've been really looking forward to meeting you and having this conversation.
Well, I've been seeing you a lot on social media, and I've been wondering when it'll be time for us to have a chat.
Yeah, and it's so funny because, normally I get inundated with requests to be on the show, but you're one of the people that I actually found in my feed, in my world. You just came across, and then I actively pursued you to come on the show because you don't do many interviews. You have done very few over the last 4 or 5 years.
That's right. So we've been very focused on building the organization and building the community. And then eventually we realized, okay, it needs a lot of PR to get the word out, not just delivery, but really active talking about it in the public eye. So I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I'm very happy to have you. I'm looking forward to it. So, so your work, your spiritual work, spawns from your channeling, essentially, right? You are a channel, and you channel the Nafim. I can never say the name.
So I channel the Elohim.
Elohim, thank you.
Right, and also angelic beings. It all started with Emmanuel. He was the first angelic being that I connected with that basically spoke through me or to me. And then it evolved into other angelic beings, and now I'm a channel for the Elohim.
So before we go down that road, what was your life like before this insanity that came into your life of channeling the Elohim? I can never say the name. Elohim, thank you. Before you started channeling the Elohim and talking about angels and all of this kind of, insane. It's insane. It's all insane.
It's nuts.
So what was your life like before this came into your life?
Very grounded. So I'm a trained scientist and engineer.
Really?
From Austria.
Okay.
So very particular conditioned mind, right?
An Austrian engineer scientist.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I have the picture in my head, yes.
And so that life, took me on a journey of being academic and then also being an entrepreneur. I started a couple companies and I was pretty much in digital marketing and advertising for a solid 10 plus, 15 plus years. And it was something that I was good at, but that doesn't mean it made me happy. Right? People come and pat on your shoulder and they say, wow, you've got the dream life, man. And I'm thinking, well, why am I not feeling it then?
Right.
And a good friend of mine that was visiting me when I was doing an expat stint in Singapore, he basically came to me and he said, Asil, you might be living a dream life, but it's someone else's dream life. It's not yours. And that really struck a chord in my heart. And I thought, he's right. This is not my dream life. It doesn't matter how valuable it would be for someone else, but something is not right. And I'm starting to get sick. I'm starting to be depressed. I'm starting to really feel a pressure from spirit or from my soul to have a drastic change without knowing where the next step will lead me.
Right.
And that is terrifying for everyone in your circle, in my circle, right? They basically say, oh my God, have a plan at least. I'm like, no, this is not how it works. You don't make a plan and then let go.
So you burned the boats?
I did.
At the shore?
I did.
Wow.
I jumped off the cliff, the metaphorical.
Metaphorically. Yeah. Wow. That takes, as they say in my language, cojones, sir.
I thought at that time I had almost no option. And the option.
But what drew you to that though? What made you think that, like, I know you were living someone else's dream life, but a lot of people have that feeling.
Yeah.
What caused you to take that action, that step, that I'm going to burn the bridge, I'm going to burn everything behind me, and forward is the only way. I can't go back.
So here's the thing. I had vested interest in an advertising agency, and I was in a very good position, and I was doing really well with big clients and corporations. I was getting more and more depressed. Every morning going to work was just a drag.
I know that feeling.
And I went to a psychotherapist because I thought maybe I need professional help. And the therapist sat down with me and he said, young man, and he was an older guy from Singapore. He said, I think you don't need medication. You need a lifestyle change. What you're doing may not be what your heart wants to do. So I recommend you think about how life would look like if this is not what you do. And I thought about it. It felt to me like I want to travel. I want to explore spirituality. I want to understand all the different ways humanity is connected to spirit in its most authentic, in its most pristine, in its most intense ways. The most authentic teachers that I can find. I want to understand how all of these traditions came to be. So that was kind of the spark. That excited me. And the terror of letting go of a life that has been created was mitigated by the excitement of what could be.
And that's the balance that we have to deal with, because a lot of times the fear is so much more than what if.
Yes.
The what if. I had to do it with this show. I was terrified. And I had to take the jump where I'm like, I have to go all in. And that's when things started to change, when I took the leap. But it's scary.
How was it for you with your community, friends, and family? Did they think you had lost your mind a bit?
Well, I did it in a way that I was still doing my old job, which was filmmaking, a filmmaking podcast. So as I did that, I kind of quietly did the show. I launched April of 2021, but I only started taking it seriously in January of 2022. And we had 989 subscribers then. And that's when I said, we're going all in. I'm going to build a set. I'm going to get a camera. I'm going to do this right. And then I started doing 3-4 episodes a week, just take it seriously, grind it out. And I had no attachment to outcome. But I've lost friends. People fell, as they say, people fell off the game board. New people come onto the game board, and that's just life. It's sad, but it's okay. It's just the way it is. But I was terrified because I was afraid of losing everything I had built. It's been, at that point, it was 6 years of building up this other business, other world, and then I'm going to be talking to weirdos like yourself. Yeah. I say that with all the love in the world.
I can totally relate to it.
But that's exactly this. So I'm talking about channeling. I'm talking about psychic phenomenon. I'm talking about ancient mysteries, how the pyramids were built, then quantum physicists. I just had a NASA rocket scientist on the other day talking about spirituality. Like, it was so cool, though. It was all so cool. And I love going down these roads. And I've always loved these kind of things. But it's a very interesting journey. Now it's not. Of course, it makes sense now. It's easy to look back and go, oh yeah, of course I had to go do that. But when you're in the moment, it's extremely difficult to leave an old relationship, to leave an old situation, to leave and take that jump and that risk. But yeah, it's not easy. And I still it's funny enough, I still get people who are like, so you found Jesus, is that what you're doing now? I'm like, no, it's not exactly that. I was like, things like that. But then I get other people who are like, hey, I'm very proud of what you're doing. I can't talk about it out here in LA, but keep going. I watch you all the time. Because they're afraid of coming out, and any sort of spirituality in LA or in Hollywood is pretty much frowned upon, which is weird.
Yeah, just imagine me coming. Just like the circles I had, the friends I had.
Austrian engineer scientist.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, digital marketer for Fortune 100, 500 companies. And so a lot of my circles, former colleagues, friends,
Oh, yeah.
they were like,
You're insane.
is everything okay? Do you need help? How can we help you? Right? To come back to your... But the thing is, I was still fairly grounded in the experience that was happening to me. And I was holding it with a sense of awe and wonder and curiosity, occasionally overwhelm, right? And I did lose some friends. And my family definitely had concerns. And it took me some time to really open up to them to what was happening to me.
So I don't mean to cut you off, but when did the channeling start? Because it sounds like you started off on this road before you start hearing voices.
Yes.
So how did that work?
So that was about a period of, I want to say, a good year. So I've been on the spiritual journey for a long time. Been doing meditation retreats and Zen Buddhism and Taoism. I was always curious about spirituality. So that was always part of there was a parallel track, right? And at some point, I could no longer have a parallel track. I had to really jump off. So that gave me the opportunity to fully focus on my spiritual development. And within basically an 8-month, 12-month period, what I consider the channel or this connection opened up. And that was around 2017. It started in 2016, but 2017 was kind of like the
moment.
The moment, yeah.
What was it like when you first heard the voices? Did you think you were going nuts?
So the funny thing is, you may have an understanding of this, and maybe many of your viewers, if you have done medicine work,
yes,
plant medicine work, you're familiar with having conversations with spirit.
Got it. So it wasn't a complete shock to you.
It was not a complete shock.
Got it.
What was different about it? It was as clear as night and day. It was almost like you and I were having a conversation, and I was having a conversation with an incredibly intelligent being of incredible reverence and light. And I thought, I have never experienced this. No matter how much plant medicine work or meditation retreats or intense experience and rituals I've had done, this was unique. It felt of a different caliber. A different world had opened up to me that I had not even other people here talk about. So I knew at that moment that it was either jackpot or I was in some sort of trouble.
It's like I'm going straight to hell, or there's something else happening. That's interesting. I want to ask you, because this is something that a lot of people do talk about. I've had many people on the show who've done plant medicine and psychedelics and things like that. And that is a form of getting to the other side. There was a guru that came on the show, a Swami, who said, when I asked him about plant medicine, he goes, well, plant medicine is like taking a sledgehammer to the wall to put a window in, to get to the other side, where meditation and inner work has a door that's right there, and you could just open it up and walk very easily through. It's plant medicine's a very abrupt thing, and he's also said something very important. I'd love to hear your thoughts. He said that not everyone's ready, physically, mentally, or spiritually, for what presents itself with plant medicine or psychedelics, because you are opening doors. You are crashing through, and it could be life-altering. It could scare the hell out of you. It can be the most peaceful thing. It all depends on where you are at. Where with meditation and spiritual inner work, it's a much slower, gradual process, to the point where when you get to that same place, might take you years, but then you could turn it on and off whenever you want without having to take any psychedelic or any plant medicine. What's your thoughts on that?
That's a great perspective. I really appreciate that. And in some ways very similar to mine. And my journey was very strongly in the meditation department, Taoist meditation, Buddhist meditation, yogic practices. And I realized that it would take me many, many years. I realized it would take me decades to get to a place that my soul was yearning to get to faster.
Mm-hmm.
And when consciousness is ready, it will find ways to make that move,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And there were opportunities for me to have experiences that would elevate and expand my consciousness in a way that was definitely stretching the boundaries of what I could receive,
Mm-hmm.
but something inside of me was ready for it. Now, was it easy? No. Very challenging occasionally, destabilizing, overwhelming occasionally, and also physically taxing. So it's definitely not for everyone, but in the right moment, in the right context, in the right environment, with the right guidance, it could be very valuable, very valuable. Now, does everyone that does medicine, plant medicine work open up to have a channel or a conversation with angelic beings? No, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
So something inside of me was primed to be ready and also be supported with that type of work, with the combination of my meditation work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that combination, doors were opened up for me in an accelerated way.
It sounds like you laid down the foundation where it wasn't a sledgehammer. Maybe you were breaking through the drywall in a little bit more constructive way, and it wasn't as abrupt because the foundation of what you had built prepared you for what was coming, as opposed to someone who has no preparation, takes a little bit of plant medicine, and woo,
Yeah.
they're off and running.
It can be very destabilizing for anyone who does not have a spiritual foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you, what happened in the Redwood Forest?
The redwoods are so special.
Oh, they are so beautiful.
They're so special.
Muir Woods up there in Northern California. It's just, it's a magical, magical place.
Very special. So I was leading a meditation retreat, and at the tail end of it, everyone had already gone to bed, and I was sitting still back outside in the forest. There's like a fog going through the forest. It was kind of a full moon. We picked a full moon weekend. It was beautiful, all the sounds of the night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there by the fire, and I close my eyes, and I feel an energy coming, and it was almost like there was a soundproof dome that was being laid on top of the whole area that I was sitting in. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. I can't hear anything, just myself. And my mind was super clear, quiet. And I see these lights approaching in my, mind's eye. And one of the lights is moving forward and has this connection with me and starts talking to me just the way you and I talk, and says, you're finally ready and we can work with you. All the things you have learned have served a purpose, but you won't need them going forward. We will prepare you for the role that you're going to play in our gift to humanity. And I'm thinking, who are you and what do you want? And the voice says, my name is Emmanuel, and I will guide you through this process. And I had no context of what Emmanuel is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, oh, maybe this is like the spirit of a saint or an ascended master or something of a past human. But it turns out it was an angelic being, and I thought, okay, this is a bit much, right? So what do I do with this? He said, you have made an agreement 3,000 years ago when you were living as a human that you would serve in this particular way when the time was right. Humanity was right and you were in the right place to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you're consciously aware and you're ready to make that choice, you still have a choice, and we will just leave you alone if you say no, and you can live a normal human life, normal quote unquote. And I thought, well, is that going to make me happy? Is that going to feel like it's my soul's purpose?
Mm-hmm.
I thought about it for 3 months. And I realized, no, this is going to be the greatest adventure I'm going to say yes to. And so far it's been.
So far, you've been doing okay so far. Now, you've talked about the different shades of consciousness. Can you talk a little bit about what they are and how they influence our perception of our reality?
One of the most significant things for us to understand is we are a collective consciousness having an individualized experience in a physical form.
Mm-hmm.
That is human consciousness as a collective, and we are representations of that collective consciousness. But we are also individualized soul containers. That's the way the guides talk about it. They call it a soul container that carries the information of all the lifetimes you have ever lived in all the forms you have ever lived, which means there is other physical forms.
Stop it.
Yes. And you have represented other forms of collective consciousness before. So all these experiences come along in the soul container, and at some point you choose or somehow you are directed to this experience, and in this experience you represent human consciousness. Human consciousness, as a seated consciousness, evolves through the experiences that we are all having as individualized forms and with each other. This evolutionary process is like a school. It's a training ground. It's an incubation chamber for consciousness. So while it is exciting and challenging and all of the things that we imagine it to be, it is a win-win-win. It's a win for you as an individual consciousness, an individual soul. It's a win for human collective consciousness because it grows and evolves. And it's a win for all of consciousness because if humanity evolves, then all other forms of consciousness are also being influenced and impacted by humanity's growth because we are in this giant network of independent and connected collectives.
It's interesting. So I've heard this before, where the collective of the human collective, our frequency is rising, and we can all kind of feel something's off, going on, especially in the last 20 years.
Oh yes,
it's been exponentially fast. That our consciousness, just like our individually, you and I. Let's say both you and I are ascended masters, walking masters. We're not, but let's say, you're Jesus, I'm Buddha. Let's throw it out there, okay? So we're walking up. As we are walking the earth, our frequency is at such a high level that we affect everybody around us.
Yes.
In proximity, like within a certain amount of space, and also collectively, just because of us being here at this time. So if that's the case, then humanity being here at this time as we are raising, we're affecting other collectives around the universe, other forms. I mean, anyone who doesn't understand that there is life in this universe, in this massive, the most atheist scientist on the planet, and you are a former scientist, can logically say that there is absolutely a strong chance that there's intelligent life somewhere in this universe at this moment, because there's also, was there intelligent life a billion years ago on this other planet, and is it there now, and all that kind of stuff. But we're raising consciousness for everybody, and vice versa. Wherever there's consciousness raising elsewhere, it raises us. But I keep hearing again and again that the Earth experiment is one of the more important ones. Maybe that's ego, I don't know. But that what's happening to humanity now has never happened in the history of humanity, and the history of humanity has been around for more than 6,000 years. It's been around for a long time. So all the cycles of ups and downs and stuff, we've never, even if we want to go back to Atlantis, where we were more spiritually enlightened than we are now, what's happening now didn't happen then or other times. Would you agree?
Yes, that is in alignment with the information that I'm getting.
Okay. So
Earth's rising energy is the place that we're in, both in the context of our environmental circumstances, basically the cosmological energy is rising, as well as the ripeness or the maturity of our collective consciousness in that combination has never been like this.
Right.
So we are at a precipice of maturation, awakening, evolution, ascension. Whatever you want to call it, ascension process, as the guides call it, is a period of time where humanity enters a next phase of its final maturation stage as a consciousness in this form. Because there is other forms we will be able to take after this physical form is complete. So it continues, but this stage is the last stage of the physical form.
And this is heavy lifting.
This is heavy lifting.
Yeah.
This is heavy lifting because many times we've been quite technologically advanced. We have had a lot of understanding of the universe and life itself, but the entire collective wasn't at that level of readiness. And the combination of the rising energies, what it does is it gives us the wind for that sail to actually fully move. Everything is accelerating, as you said. People are waking up left and right. Friends, family members that we have never considered as spiritual are suddenly having spiritual thoughts and considerations. They're having questions that people would ask when they're, in a Buddhist monastery, even though they have not had any type of inclination of that kind. People are popping left and right, like popcorn. And those waves that are coming through are just getting stronger and stronger. And so more and more people are having these experiences of awakening or dark night of the soul or whatever you want to call it, many different forms of experiences. And for those that don't have any type of foundation, it is becoming very challenging and overwhelming and potentially destabilizing.
There's a lot of chaos going on right now. There's a lot of stuff happening. It's not the first time. I mean, go back to 1968, for God's sakes. I mean, there have been other years in our recent history that was pretty chaotic and even more divisive. I mean, I would argue the Civil War here in the United States was a little bit more divisive than we are now, though we are, I think, feeling it more now because of social media, because of the interconnectedness of all of us. We feel it a lot more. We're more sensitive to it right now. But there seems to be a lot of things happening. Old systems are starting to crumble, crack. Things that we thought would never, ever go away are now starting to go away. Things that were rock solid are on very shaky foundation. Just within our lifetime, how much has changed since the 70s from where we are now. It's mind-blowing, mind-blowing what's going on.
So if you look at the trajectory, right, it's not a linear growth. It's an exponential growth. And we are at the hockey stick moment of this exponential growth, meaning we cannot project or extrapolate from the past into what the future is going to look like.
Because it's uncharted.
It's uncharted and it's growing so fast. So if you were to understand what life is going to look like in 5 or 10 years from now, you'd have a challenging time to imagine what life is going to look like with everything that's happening, right? Not even if you understand what happened in the last 5 years and 10 years, that's not going to be nearly enough to understand what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years.
But when we were growing up in the 70s and the 80s, I'm assuming you and I are of similar vintage. If not, you look fantastic so for your age. But I assume we're in the similar vintage, that even in the 70s and the 80s, that statement you could say, I know what happened in 1970, it's now 1980. I have a good idea of where we're going to be in 1990. Like there was a trajectory, and you could argue that, but then the internet showed up in the late 90s, and that kind of started to shake things up. And then that time period started to change very, very drastically. So from the year 2000 to 2010, knowing what happened from 90 to 2000 really didn't help. And then from 2010 to 2020, for God's sakes. And now from 2020 to where we are right now at the end of 2024, what's happened in the last 4 years? Pandemic, AI, things are so ramped up so much faster. I can't even imagine in 5 years. I have no idea. I mean, I was walking downtown Austin. I saw a driverless car in Austin, not LA, not New York, not Tokyo, in Austin, a smaller city. And I'm like, what is happening? And our kids growing up at this time period, they're just like, things are moving so fast for them. They're just, it took so much slower.
So let me ask you this. If you, as a human being, have relied on society to hold you through the time of change, no matter what comes, to have a certain level of predictability and to have a certain level of expectation of the future, and if you start to feel you no longer can have that, you no longer can predict, you no longer can fully trust of what is being told is going to happen, what do you trust? What do you believe? What do you hold on to? What is your core essence as you're walking into the uncertain?
So if I use that analogy, that means that if we've used the exterior as our anchors, well, when that foundation is rattled because it's changing so rapidly, if you put your hook on there and now the hook is gone, you're like, well, wait a minute, where do I go? Oh, here's another hook. Oh, but that's gone now. Because you're constantly looking for reaffirmment outside of you. The only way we can move forward is looking within, because this doesn't change.
Right.
Not that way. There is a truth, there's an understanding inside of you that is rock solid, because it is your soul. It is connected to divine intelligence and divine consciousness, and all of that. While all of this is just a game, a movie, a play, a video game. That's all this is.
So how could you hold on to a movie or a game, right? You can, for a period of time, you can, and it'll be a fun ride, right? But there are certain things that I consider as an eternal soul in a human body. There is an aspect of you that is truth, that's eternal, that's unshakable, that's unwavering, that's always existent. And we have just lost that touch. We have started to believe that power is outside of us. We've trusted that as our guiding light. And we are starting to realize, this is not really it. And things like COVID shake up reality and people's beliefs, and other experiences in society do the same thing. And suddenly people start losing trust in the systems that they have trusted in the systems that have guided them for lifetimes or
multiple
generations, right? So there is a disheartened, disillusioned, and an angry state that people come to at first when they are disillusioned in that way. Because something they trusted is suddenly falling apart. So what should they trust? Is it religion? Is it pharmaceuticals? Is it plant medicines? What is it? Is it the next social media influencer? What is it that they should trust? What is it that they can trust? We have lost in some ways that essential connection, that essential truth and trust inside.
Right.
And so this is, therefore, a great challenging time for humanity and a lot of individuals.
It would be the equivalent of, a video game character who understands their entire world very carefully, but when they run into a wall because the simulation is over, in other words, the programmers didn't go farther because they never had to, and we've reached the end of the game, they're like, well, what do I do?
Is this a movie reference?
It isn't a movie reference, but it is a Truman Show. It's literally Truman Show at the end of the day, which is one of the great spiritual movies of all time. But yeah, when Jim Carrey hits the wall at the end. Sorry, it's been around for a while, guys. But he hits and he finally realizes, that's the edge of his world.
His reality.
Literally, the edge of his reality. Till he opens the door and goes through to see what's on the other side. Arguing that he's going inward during that analogy. But that is the power that I think people are searching. That's what they're looking for right now. Because I love what you're saying. They're disillusioned with the systems, with the programming, with the things that they've said. This is a table. This is always going to be a table. It's never going to not be a table. You can trust that this is a table. And then quantum physics comes out like, well, that's actually not really a solid table. It's actually completely not solid at all. It's a perception that we have. And you're like, well, what are you talking about? The table's solid. It's like, and that starts to rattle people. And that's a small example. There's much larger ones. Religion, government, media, pharmaceuticals, health, wellness, all of it. Every aspect of our life is being challenged. And it's throwing people out of whack. I think that's also one of the reasons why there seems to be a lot more chaotic energy happening, because you can't change without challenge. You can't change without some sort of, you learn the most in your life in chaotic times.
Yeah, it is what the guides call the impulse or the catalyst, right? And sometimes a solid challenge is a good impulse or catalyst. And if we are really stuck in our ways, the challenge needs to be solid enough, strong enough to actually create that awakening spark. Now, will it be challenging in the moment of it? Of course it will. It will make you question everything about life and self and reality. But it will also start and initiate a process of asking the bigger questions and searching for a sense of peace that is not delivered to you by your external circumstances or external parties. Now, that is true. If I put you into a Buddhist monastery somewhere on top of the mountain, you'll probably feel peaceful. It might take you a little while to get there, but eventually the environment will have an effect on you. So we are affected by our environment, no doubt about it. But if I told you there's a pathway for you to find that level of peace, you would find, no matter where you are, if you have strengthened and solidified that internal connection, so that you can have that power and nothing else has power over you.
Just like taking a portable temple with you, a monastery with you everywhere you go.
And the temple is inside, as many of these masters have said.
Yes, many of them have said the same thing again and again.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not saying anything new. The guides even said that, in many of their channelings, they said, this is not news. This is information you've got many, many times. And a really close friend of mine was sitting in one of the channelings once. And we have this Q&A with Emmanuel. And he says, Emmanuel, this is all very nice. And also, we've heard this many, many times. What do we need you for, to hear this again? And Emmanuel says, you've heard it, but clearly you haven't implemented it. And you need to hear it again. That is why. And that was the message.
It's a good message. It's a good message. There's something that you said the other day when I was doing research for you that I thought was so profound and so important for people to listen to, because so many people want life to be unchallenging. They want nice and peace. They want everything to be cool. I want all my relationships. They want no ripples in the waves. They want a nice, smooth sailing. And you gave the analogy of nature. That in nature, there is nothing but challenge. Anyone who's been out in nature with only a backpack, hiking, camping, how many movies have we seen? It's you against nature. Nature is designed every day to challenge the occupants of nature. Bugs, animals, birds, fish, and us animals, humans. If we've just been able to, because of our own intellect, been able to create these beautiful things that protect us from nature, these clothes, the roof over our head, able to get clean water, all these things that we take for granted in the West, not at all around the world, but let's say in the West or in developed countries, is because of our intellect. So that kind of gives us the illusion that everything should just be exactly as peaceful and as perfect. This temperature is just right in here. But that's not the way nature works. So can you talk a little bit about that and the importance of learning that lesson? Because so many people are like, why do bad things happen to good people? I'm like, because that is part of the process. What would you say?
It is definitely part of the design. So nature is designed in a certain way to basically create the most optimal outcome and also guarantee consistent evolution.
Right.
Consistent growth through trial and error, as well as pushing the boundaries of what is possible in this environment. At the same time, nature provides everything you need. everything we have, everything you look around, everything is from here. Everything is from Earth, I would assume.
I always say that too.
You may have some artifacts in the side room, but we'll talk about that another time.
Yes, my visitations. Yes, go ahead.
So nature provides, and at the same time, nature challenges.
Yeah.
And anything that isn't aligned, nature will take apart and recycle. Just the way nature does its work. Mm-hmm. And everything is an ecosystem that supports itself and each other. And some of these ecosystems require, beings to be part of the food chain and part of the development chain and part of the reproduction chain and so on. So there is like these incredibly vast and well-designed and intricate ecosystems that consistently provide. Humans, we have created a little bit of our own ecosystems. Mm-hmm. That is beyond the biological ecosystems, that is now technological, societal ecosystems, and consciousness ecosystems. And in those, there is a slightly different path for us. While nature provides the baseline, in what we have created in these ecosystems, we are evolving as a soul, as a consciousness. We are learning, we are making mistakes, we are being challenged by our reality, and that is occasionally painful. It is bringing up all kinds of the full spectrum of emotions. And the game is not to try to avoid the challenge. It is understanding how do we evolve as efficiently and as gracefully as possible. It used to be that through many cycles, we made the same mistakes over and over again until we learned them, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. You know the story about the person that keeps on dating the same person over and over and over and complaining about that I always get these same guys.
Right.
So if in life challenges persist, a certain learning has not completed. Now, we could continue for thousands of years doing this game that's been fueling our consciousness evolution, but there is a different way for consciousness to evolve. Mm-hmm. And you'd ask, well, what is that way? And can I have it bottled up, on the shelf? How much do you want for it?
Yeah.
The truth is, we have an intrinsic way with our consciousness to evolve rather than manifesting it into reality. Mm-hmm. We don't have to manifest challenges to evolve through the learning. But in order to do that, we have to face the unlearned, the unprocessed, in states of meditation, in states of silence and deep presence. Mm-hmm. When we start to face these things, when we start to look at these things from all different angles, all different perspectives, what emerges is a realization. And these realizations are almost like check marks in the soul or in our consciousness that say, okay, we don't have to recreate this any longer, check. Soul learning, unlocked. Mm-hmm. What's the next one? Oh, there is some ancestral learning that hasn't completed. Let's go down that rabbit hole, right? So we have kind of created so much external distraction for ourselves that we've lost that simple ability to find silence and presence. People lose their minds doing a 5-minute meditation.
Right.
They're like, oh, I have so many thoughts, so many emotions, it's so overwhelming, I can't do this. Meditation is not for me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, don't call it meditation. Just sit in silence by yourself. Sit in nature and do this a couple times and do it longer and longer and see what happens. And you'll start to see that people actually start to change. Mm-hmm. They start to develop, they start to understand things, and their lives become more and more stable. And their evolution takes an acceleration or an accelerated process without having to go through the pains of consistently recreating reality to wake up. When reality consistently recreates a challenge or a pain or an impulse for you, it's like a smack in your face. It's like, wake up, right? So we can have that without it.
Through meditation.
For example,
What are some other ways?
breath work, the yogic practices, just pure silence in nature. Plant medicine work helps too. There's many different ways of getting to that place of silence and presence so that we can have an observational state, so we can have the realizations, and then we can have a greater alignment internally. The stronger your alignment is, the more unwavering you are as these consistent waves of energy are moving through the earth. We no longer look at all the planets and the stars and say, oh my gosh, again, a planet in retrograde, it's going to mess up my week, right? Say, oh, my internal alignment is good, it's strong. I don't really care if there is another solar flare.
But with that said, though, it's kind of like what you're talking about is a version of you being disconnected from this realm to a certain extent. And maybe I'm not wording it properly, because I'm fighting not to use the Matrix as a reference point, because I do it so often on the show. But when you have a person or a master who is so connected to their source, so grounded, their vibration is so high, walking around in this reality, they just see the code. So they're able to not only manipulate the code, but the code doesn't affect them. Kind of like the bullets flying by Neo. He's able to, they just don't do anything to him anymore because his rules have changed. Now that's at an extreme level, meaning a master level.
Yes.
But even on a smaller level, there's things now that would have taken me off the reservation, which now bounce off me like nothing. It just rolls off my back.
Yeah.
You know, someone cutting you off in traffic when I was in my 20s is like, I need to now chase this guy down, go to his house and yell at him. You know, like insanity stuff. But now when someone cuts you off, to a certain extent, I'm human still, but generally speaking, you go, I wonder what's going on in his life or in her life that caused her to act that way. That's how I look at it now, a little bit differently. So that's a smaller example. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So stronger alignment means literally the external circumstances are no longer having the same effect that they used to in the past. So you navigate them more gracefully because there is no additional learning for you in them. They don't have a charge. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course, because now that you've lifted 5 pounds again and again.
Exactly.
So you can lift 5 pounds. It doesn't bother you anymore to the point where 5 pounds shows up. You're just like, I don't even want to lift it because I've lifted it so many times. It doesn't affect me anymore.
So think about memories of the past, right? Think about memories of the past. Some memories will stand out with an emotional charge.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And if it's a really unprocessed element of your life, it'll stand out with a strong emotional charge. If the emotional charge is so strong, some people will even like put it into the unconscious layers. They bury it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, that doesn't go away. Oh, no. It will consistently send signals to reality and say, well, this learning needs to be had. So give us a reality that will spark a learning of this unprocessed past. And it is painful to watch.
Wow. I've never heard it put that way before. It's so eloquently and beautifully packaged, that idea. Because if you're right, because exactly what happened to me and many other people as well, is I had a very traumatic episode when I was a younger man. And that actually stayed buried. I actually had forgotten about it and had no conscious understanding that it was happening. Only when I started to write my first book about it, did it start to bubble up. And all these emotions started to come up. I'm like, oh, wow. Like I had no idea it was still there. But subconsciously it had been driving my entire life. And you look back and going, oh, that's why I kept doing that. Oh, that's why that kept coming into my life. These kind of people kept coming into my life because that was not processed. So finally, when I released the book, or actually when I finished the first draft, it was just like, whew, it released. Before I couldn't even talk about it. Now I talk about it constantly and I have no problem with it. So it doesn't have the same charge as it was before. But I love the idea that if you have something in your past that has not resolved, you haven't done the work. You might have put it in a box, slammed it into but whatever you did to hide it, so far that you can't even remember it, it sends signals to reality, to the simulation, to go, hey, this one still needs to learn this lesson. And he is not really hearing you. So I need you to intensify it by 20% every single time you do it. And if he really doesn't get it, we're going to have to hit him with a sledgehammer. Correct?
That is pretty much right. And you know what's fascinating? Everything, the way we see the reality, our perception, the truths that we believe, the habits that we have formed, the behaviors we have, everything is influenced by the elements of the unprocessed past.
Of course.
Everything
Wow.
is. Everything is.
Everything. So all of the way that's the thing. The way we look at life is based on our programming.
Yeah.
Our programming is based on how we were programmed for the first 7 years of our life. That's the basic operating system. And then all of the experiences are the apps we download during our life, and they keep getting tossed in there. But that basically that's our view of the entire world, is based on all that stuff.
All our attachments, everything that's right and wrong, all our judgments, our opinions, everything is flavored by that.
And when you release all of that, you start to lighten your load, one. But I keep going back to like a yogi or a master of some sort, hearing their stories of how they evolved and reached enlightenment. And then, because it's one thing to reach enlightenment, it's another thing to be enlightened and still live here. Because once you feel enlightened and you're like, oh, I'm free, that's awesome. But to be able to work within the world with that new frequency, that new enlightenment, I imagine that these lovely souls who are on the wall here, when they reach that level of enlightenment or self-realization, all of the things we're talking about just vanished. All the programming, all the traumas, all the experience, all that kind of stuff that focused your understanding of reality goes away, because then the truth actually comes out. And everything pops up. I'm doing a session with you right now, Asil. I'm working through stuff right now myself.
Love it.
And hopefully people are listening, because it just makes so much beautiful sense. As that starts to worn away, the truth comes out, and that truth is so truth, you can't deny it, and that then changes your perception. So, a lot of these yogis, like the Maharishi and these kind of beings who were on the planet, or Yogananda, who have just recently, within the last 100 years, where we have film of them, we have recordings of them, we could hear them. The way they look at life is so far beyond our normal day-to-day. Can you believe what Susie said about me? That doesn't make sense.
When you no longer have strong judgments and strong perceptions of right and wrong, the valuation of duality. So you hold a non-dual perception, perspective, that you now hold in this dualistic form, in this dualistic ego construct that needs to interact with its dualistic reality and humans. How do you bring that non-dual way of being while being relatable as a human? Because humans will want to understand. It's like, okay, give me a perspective. But when they give you a perspective, the moment it is verbalized, it's already dualized.
Of course.
The moment something is put into words, it's already narrowed down to a certain meaning. Between what I mean and what you understand, there is also another loss of information.
Right.
So truth is really unspeakable.
Correct. It's a knowing.
It's a knowing. And one time there was one famous quote in my consciousness about the guides that, when they shared something, they said, truth is the totality of all perspectives. Therefore, everything we say is also merely a perspective.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. So truth is a knowing. It is, and you're absolutely right. You can't verbalize it almost. It's very difficult to verbalize the knowing. But that is commonplace on the other side, in the other area. When you're a soul, I hear it from near-death experiencers. They go on the other side, and they'll go, I just knew everything. I was just connected to, I call it connecting to the spiritual cloud.
Right.
To the conscious cloud, the collective up there. You just, boop, what's quantum physics? Oh, that's what it is. Okay. How do you, that's how you create free energy. Okay, great. Like it's there instantly. But when they come back, they can't bring it back because our hardware can't handle it. It's too much. But over there, there is no friction. There is no physical matter this way. This is a very dense scenario. This is tough.
It is. So I don't blame these masters to say, well, I'm enlightened. I'm going to head out of here. This is all very complex and complicated and dualistic. I'm going to continue my work from
the other side.
The non-dual side, right? And some masters, they stay on top of the mountain and they continue praying for humanity from that place. Because they say there's nothing I could share verbally that's going to make it better than my meditation here on top of the mountain for humanity.
Like a Babaji.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like a Babaji.
Or the Tibetan monks praying, for humanity. Or
that's interesting. So a lot of these, on our platform we have a show called Road to Dharma where they went to the Himalayas. They followed one yogi on a motorcycle and 10 people went on this amazing road trip. And I was asking the filmmaker behind it, he was one of the participants. I go, what did you see when you're driving up? Like, what is it? And he's like, it's mostly Buddhist, some Taoist, but a lot of Tibetan Buddhism is up in the Himalayas, a lot of Tibetan Buddhism. And he goes, everyone's a seeker because it's too difficult to just hang out in the Himalayas. Like it's a thing to try to journey through it all. And it's the nature is so brutal. And the Himalayas are a challenge in itself. So you're not going to go I'm just going to chill. There's not a lot of tourists. Everyone's there for a reason. But he said you would just see these monks in these monasteries, and they live their life there. And they're praying for not only their own enlightenment, but they're doing it for humanity. And
absolutely.
And they're creating that vibration, sending that out into the world, which is more powerful than them trying to articulate, because that might not be in their wheelhouse.
Or trying to convince people of a different understanding or perspective or belief system of live your life this way, it'll be better for you. When someone's consciousness isn't ready, they won't even be able to hear you.
Of course.
So they rather affect the collective from a different layer and different approach.
So then you and I are at a very different place because we're trying to affect the collective from inside the house.
Yes.
Like the phone calls coming from inside the house kind of thing. We're doing our work to help the collective, but from this level. It's just a different point of view.
Yeah, there's a couple of other ways that we are also doing, and I'll share more about that if you're interested.
Please.
So when the guides started to work with them, they said, look, humanity is going through a major awakening process. There are certain ways we're going to assist humanity. We cannot fix humanity's problems. This is not our job. Humanity has to fix its own problems and has to learn. We cannot take that away. What we can do is support those that are in an awakening process to accelerate the process for them to make it a bit easier. Okay. So one of the things they said, humanity, as it's going through a major awakening, humans will question, and they're going to need support. So that journey will take people on a journey of becoming a pillar of light. Aligned beings, unwavering, those people that when shit goes down, the community looks towards that person to see how they're responding to the external challenge. That's a pillar of light.
Interesting.
Okay?
Hence these
Exactly.
souls.
Hence it's like, the famous saying, what would Buddha do? Or what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
Right? That's exactly.
So if Jesus gets cut off in traffic,
exactly.
If he loses his crap,
yes,
that's a problem.
Fair game. The other thing they said was humanity as a consciousness is on Earth, and the Earth has a consciousness itself. And the Earth's grid is basically its energy lines that are holding all consciousness on Earth in a safe environment and an energetic field. So a lot of sacred sites are on the connection points in the intersections of these energy lines, nodes, right? And humanity has built temples and churches and mosques and all kinds of pyramids on top of these nodal points to utilize that energy.
How did they know where those points were?
Yeah, that's a good question. In a simplest way, obviously there's a lot of masters and priests that were dedicated their entire life to connect with spirit and know spirit's guiding us to build a temple here. We have very limited resources. It's going to take us 1,000 years to do this, but let's do it anyways. Mm-hmm. And they do it. Mm-hmm. Or it'll be humans go to that place and they realize that they heal faster at those places, that something inside of them delivers a spiritual peace that they don't have in other areas of. So there is a uniqueness. Nature responds differently in those areas. So they consider them naturally sacred places. Indigenous cultures would go to the summit of a particular volcano and would bring offerings. They would not allow anyone else to go up there except the priests, right? Things like that, they're considered sacred sites. Now, a lot of these sacred sites have been used and utilized and abused and dormant and active and inactive. The grid supports consciousness. And the work that the guides are telling me to do, or us as a community to do, is basically earth keeping. How do we adjust and attune these places to the highest possible frequency they can hold so they can support the entire region that they're in, and this whole grid to support the whole of humanity? Because not everyone is going to have the luxury of seeing your podcast or seeing some of my meditations. Some people will just be living the human life. They will also go through an awakening process, but what will be there in their field to support them? At the very minimum, at the baseline, it is the earth grid. The earth itself as a consciousness will support humanity in its awakening. So that's another piece of the work. So it's a top-down and bottom-up
scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why grounding is so important. When you actually physically ground yourself in nature and in sand and the actual ground. The scientific aspect of it is the magnet, the energy, the charge helps you heal faster, helps you get rid of inflammation, all these kind of things. Hence why in nature, generally speaking, animals don't have those kind of diseases, cancers and things like that, unless they're affected by something that we did.
Right.
Or they're near a nuclear power plant or something along those lines. That's very, very powerful. One thing you've talked about in the past as well is Taoist mysticism. We haven't really delved into a lot of Taoist teachings in the show, which I'm going to remedy soon. I have a couple of masters coming because it's such a powerful philosophy and school of thought. But I've never heard of Taoist mysticism. I've heard of obviously the Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching and that the basis of Taoism, to my understanding. What is Taoist mysticism?
What's interesting to me, the reason I was so excited and drawn to Taoism was Taoists to me were like scientists. They're scientists, and they wanted to explore things by try and error, as well as, of course, guided by spirit. But there were mathematicians, there were astronomers, there were healers, all these different things that came out of Taoism influenced all aspects of our current life. Most people aren't aware of. But there was one thing that they were aiming towards, and that was immortal life. And some of that was guided by, the kings and the emperors that lived, that basically said, I want to live immortally. Show me how it's done. Here's 10,000 people you can experiment on, And so they would create all these different pathways of practices, inner Qigong, Neigong, to figure out how energy within the body can be stored, developed, manipulated, directed to get to a place of greater health and longevity and immortality. So that was kind of like their pathway to figuring out what this body can do and what the spirit can do. I was drawn to that because there is very few true, authentic Taoist masters left that still teach. Many of them have withdrawn, or the Cultural Revolution in China has extinguished several lineages, and all of that mysticism was kind of buried. What they allowed to exist was like the more scientific and societally acceptable pieces, right? But in many ways, it still is available, and it has definitely guided me in my pathway to a certain degree. It started to become a little too rigid for me. I needed to have an input from an intelligence that is greater than human intelligence. Just imagine it this way. As I was going through my process, when channels started opening and they said, we're going to have to work on you for a year for you to even be ready to get the first step in, I said, okay. I would go through 5-6 meditations a day to just being operated on, right? It's like upgrades after upgrades. And I'm trying to understand what is happening to me. What is this thing that you guys are doing? Because I have some context from Taoist meditations and yogic practice. I'm like, oh, this is similar to like, Kapalbhati breathing. And this is similar to the pranayama. And this is similar to this. And this is similar to that. And they said, if you have to understand everything that we're doing to this very complex system that you have, and you have to basically be okay with it and approve it, we will never get done. It'll take forever. You have to have a certain level of baseline trust that we are in a very clear understanding of the totality of this human machine and this form that you are, and we are doing the best possible in the most benevolent and effective way to your being. And so I had to develop a certain trust to a greater intelligence than my own and let them do what they needed to do, rather than trying to own it and dominate it with my mind.
Hence the burning of the bridge, burning of the boats, and just taking the leap of faith.
Yes.
Faith has a lot to do with all of this, doesn't it?
It does.
It's scary.
It's
very scary to have faith in. I think the scariest thing that people have faith in is within themselves. To have faith in yourself is probably the scariest, I think, one of the scariest kinds of faith to have. Because when you put your faith in an exterior deity or master, or somebody in a white coat, or someone in the government, or someone at a job, or so, when you put the power in somebody else's hands, it's a lot more comfortable.
Of course.
Generally speaking.
Because you can hold them accountable, you can blame it on them.
Right, but to have faith within yourself is very, not only scary, but if you look at anyone who's ever accomplished anything in this lifetime, they've always had faith in themselves. Every great athlete, every great entrepreneur, every great artist, not all of them, but many artists had faith in themselves, or at least had enough faith in themselves to do the art, regardless if it would actually go anywhere. Like Van Gogh, perfect example of an artist who just painted and painted and painted without ever knowing where it was going to go. But faith is such a powerful thing. Can you kind of dig in? What do the guides say about that aspect of it? Because everyone listening to this conversation needs to understand that they have to eventually have faith that the power is within themselves, which is terrifying if you've been programmed.
The hardest thing.
Yeah, because you've been programmed all your life that no, the power is outside of you, and we're gatekeepers and we'll help you get there. But real masters don't do that. Real masters say, no, you are. It's in here. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Are you familiar with the understanding of projection? So if I project onto you who I believe you to be, and if your projection or your internal alignment, your internal strength isn't very solidly established, then my projection will make you feel a certain way. You'll say, oh, I feel judged in this person's presence. I don't feel so good. I feel less than in this person's eye, right? So that's projection. And the positive power of projection is if I see something much greater in you than you can ever see in yourself, then you will feel in my presence elevated and uplifted, right?
Correct.
I'll see something in you that you almost don't believe is possible.
Yeah.
And in that sense, you want to believe it, or something inside of you is fighting it, but you give it a chance, and over time what happens is something inside of you starts to change, and you start to believe my projection to be true. So, people with strong projection fields are very powerful people because they have influence on those with less strong projection fields. The question is, what is your projection shaped by? What type of energy and what type of internal alignment, and is it fueled by pure unconditional love?
So a dictator has that power. Because to be able to convince millions of people to do something, you need to have some power of projection. Just like the Maharishi had the same power. But he did it for good, out of love, to elevate humanity.
That's right.
Make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, if I say that you hold a great power in you, a power that is deriving from the seed of creation, of seed of creators, right? And that creators want you to be able to own that power and become a creator yourself. They don't want to be worshipped. They want you to become a fully evolved, conscious creator yourself. You say, oh man, that sounds like hard work. Right? How am I going to get there if I can't even get through morning traffic in Austin?
I got stuff to do. I don't have time for evolution and enlightenment, sir.
Exactly. So, in that sense, if I have faith in you,
right,
over time, that will develop a faith in yourself. In the beginning, if you don't have it yet.
Right.
Now, of course, you could say like, well, I have faith that I can, do this. I have faith that I can face following challenges. I have faith that I can, move through this section of life because I've done it in the past. But I feel, and this is the sense that I'm getting about the future, is that we're going to have unprecedented challenges. Challenges that are so big that it will challenge the core of our being, of our existence. If you don't have faith in that type of period, what will you be able to rely on? So, it is really important to develop humans that have strong alignment and have really strong self-projection fields, meaning how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as capable, possible, as a creator, as loving, as loved? And so in our work, in our training, it is about developing that self-projection field. And until that is established, I assist with the guides on sharing that projection field onto you. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Because in the beginning, I had no faith. I was just like
I just work here.
Exactly. I was just thrown into the pit, and they said, well, this is the plan that we have. And I said, well, I don't know if I should believe this. What if this is all a scam? What if I'm being like misguided to be whatever? Like, the mind was going crazy. And so I was just following the steps because they had so much faith in me. Their projection field onto me was consistently of an unconditionally loving and present sense. It was unwavering. And because of that, I could start to trust not only them, but the process and eventually myself.
Well, it's kind of what a good parent does to their child. You believe in them when they don't believe in themselves.
Exactly.
And having kids myself, I understand that. Sometimes they start beating themselves up and you're like, no, I see greatness in you. I see that you can make the baseball team. I think you can make the JV basketball team. I think you can. I think when they can't see it, you see it in them. And you literally, you're not even BSing. You clearly see that they're capable. And that's what the projection is, and that's where they start to rise to what they're expected to do, or they start to believe that they can do it.
There is experiments with actual plants like this.
Tell me.
Well, people projecting love
Oh, yeah.
and the idea of beauty and perfection and provided for to plants, they will actually grow faster.
Mm-hmm.
They will actually become more vibrant and more vital. So we have this power within us that we can use to either diminish or challenge our environment, which serves a different purpose, but it serves a purpose. Or we can learn to truly hold that projection of a positive kind for ourselves, and we can hold that projection for humanity. And the projection is really, I hold the projection of potential.
Explain
Not that you will never face challenge.
Of course.
Not that I want your challenges to just go away. But I hold that projection of potential that you can do it. Because I believe in you. Because I believe you are infinitely resourced. Because I trust that you are infinitely supported and loved through it all. That is ultimate faith. But without I'm not sourcing this faith from somewhere else. It's coming from in here. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense in an extremely powerful place because it is a foundation that cannot be shaken.
Yes.
No matter where you are in the world.
It can't be taken away.
It can't be taken away at all. I mean, nothing anyone could do from the exterior could ever,
hence
this ever do that because we're back to it's a knowing. You know, I have absolutely, as you're talking in my head, I'm going, absolutely. Like I understand that I'm being guided. I understand that I'm being protected. I understand that I have endless resources for anything that comes across our path. And I just being around walking the planet for as long as I have, you just look back at your life and go, how the hell did I make it through that? Mm-hmm. Especially in your teenage years. How the hell did I make it through that? Or, good Lord, I almost died that day. Like, how did I not die? How did we even make it out? Well, how did we make it out of the 80s?
Good question.
With
bad haircuts.
With bad haircuts and no seatbelts. Drinking water out of a hose, you know. Not filtered water and things like that. How did we survive is beyond me. But you look back and you just go, there's something there that guided me. There was multiple times that when I was driving, when I was a kid, I should have died in certain scenarios. But there was something there that kind of just missed it or just pushed it back, you know. And you look back and go, there's just no way. You know, and then as this whole thing, what we're doing here is obviously I'm not in control of this. This makes no sense. So then you start going, no, there's no wavering in my understanding of that for me, because it's been proven. I guess for you too, it has been proven again and again and again to the point where now your logical mind goes, well, there's got to be something going on here. Even your scientific Austrian engineering mind.
Exactly. Even that one.
Right? At a certain point, you kept seeing so much that you're just like, well, this just has to be. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. You just keep going down that road. With enlightenment, which is it's one of those words that a lot of people use. They're like, I want to be enlightened. I want to get, another version of that is self-realization. What are some of the common elements that all of these beings went through? They all have very different paths to walk, as you and I have very different paths we're walking. But what are the commonalities of what happens when you start to reach these higher frequencies, and what can we do to tap into those things so we can start raising ours?
When we start to go on a path of self-realization or healing or growth or evolution, first we'll start to meet a lot of pain. We'll start to meet a lot of unprocessed. We'll start to meet, the ugly things, it's stored in the basements of our consciousness, stored in our ancestry. Even if you go 2-3 generations back in everyone's ancestry, there is war, rape, pillage, right? Everything is in there. We carry it because the past generations haven't processed it yet. So whatever they couldn't process, they handed it over to the next generation.
It's a gift.
It's a gift. Inheritance. Good luck. We tried everything we could. We couldn't do this. It's now on you. So we carry a lot of that. And the journey to self-realization will have a moment of, okay, this is a lot that I need to process, and a lot to heal, a lot to understand, observe, integrate. And over time, as I'm integrating, a new sense of self is starting to establish within me. This sense of self is beyond the ego construct. Mm-hmm. It is beyond the image that I have of the person that is living this lifetime. The sense of self is beyond any thought I have of myself. It is a sense of being that is eternal. So in this journey, I will enter states of being that are beyond identity, mm-hmm. that are beyond space and beyond time. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Yeah.
So in these expanded states of consciousness, which you enter when you meditate a lot, when you do the type of consciousness expanding experiences, the question is, when you go to these states, you can go to a lot of states. We have many ways to go into different expanded states Correct. Of consciousness. Mm-hmm. In this day and age, much easier than ever. How much of it can you actually bring back, and how much of it actually changes permanently? Mm. The greater the delta is between the expanded state of consciousness and our standard operational state of consciousness, mm-hmm. the harder it's going to be to return. Because you're going to see, oh my God, I saw what it can be like, and this is where I am. Oh, wow, this is going to be a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Some people develop patterns of addiction to return back to these states with the mechanisms or tools that take them there, mm-hmm. without ever changing the standard over time permanently. So our standard way of consciousness and our frequency, as you said, our daily frequency wants to establish and change consistently. And as this changes, our way of seeing reality changes as well. I start to see everything more non-dually. I start to see purpose in everything. I start to see everything is connected to everything, and everything is supporting everything. Mm-hmm. And no matter how I feel about something, no matter what my mind brings as an evaluation or a thought mm-hmm. or an interpretation of the moment, mm-hmm. if I can just be in a state of observation and presence, I can be with that moment no matter how hard it is. So that is some of the greatest teachings of the self-realization journey.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Now, Asil, I wanted to see if we can do a little bit of a channeling session here today.
We probably can.
So can you tell everybody what your process is, mm-hmm.
How
you do it, and what you feel when you're doing it? Like, yes. Are you there? You're not there? Do you remember when you come back? Do you see everything? How does it work for you?
So I'm considered an energy channel.
Okay.
So there is, in the spectrum of trance channeling, there is everything from intuition, the mm-hmm. lightest form, to full body possession, mm-hmm. like a Siberian shaman being taken over.
Or like Seth back in the day.
For example.
Yeah.
Right. So, which means spirit controls the entire body. The host has no recollection of what happened, mm-hmm. and they don't have literally control. So that's why we call it a possession, not an embodiment. An embodiment, I still have agency, mm-hmm. right?
And that possession is with permission.
Correct.
Yeah. So
possession
it's a loaded word.
Exactly. So I allow the possession to happen, uh-huh. and I just don't have agency. The other side has agency to separate. Does that make sense?
Yes. So where are you?
I'm in embodiment states.
Okay.
So in the embodiment state, my upper body is operated, mm-hmm. and I can interrupt and disconnect at any point. I'm fully conscious, but my consciousness is separated, almost like I'm viewing myself from, 6 feet behind.
Oh, sure.
And so I'm in this state of just observing as the words are coming through. I don't even know what they're going to say. I only see the next word formulating and coming through.
It's like a stream of consciousness.
Exactly.
Okay.
And my body goes through, this energy body was developed and established into what I would consider like a technology that has extended the hardware, right? Mm-hmm. So they can actually deliver incredible amounts of energy through this form. So the word channeling, the spoken channelings are just 2% of my work. Mm-hmm. The true work happens in the energetic channeling and the type of energetic adjustments that the guides deliver to the audience and to the people that are part of this journey.
And even people watching this years from now,
feel it.
They will feel something.
100%.
Okay. And how does it make you feel physically when you're done? You weaken or energized?
I'm energized.
Yeah. It doesn't drain you.
Not anymore. In the beginning, it used to, because again, the delta of their energetic connection or the energetic frequency they hold versus where my standard was so wide that in the returning, I was exhausted.
Of course.
Right? But over time, as my body developed, when I connect, it's no longer depleting. It feels energizing.
Beautiful. All right. And then are they going to, is it going to be Emmanuel or is it going to be the guides?
So first, it'll be the Elohim, most likely, because they come in to give like a wide perspective and a preamble kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then Emmanuel comes in to answer questions, but he may also have a couple words to say beforehand.
He's an MC. He's the MC.
He's an ambassador, right? He's a spokesperson, very kind, very loving, and he has had human experiences, so he can relate to the human experience, to the human condition.
Right. And that's very specific. That's something that doesn't happen often.
Correct.
A lot of times energies that come through or consciousnesses come through have never had an incarnation.
Yes.
Human or otherwise.
Yes. And you know what's fascinating is he actually had to go through the same experience that we had to go through. He had no recollection that he was an angelic being having a human experience.
Interesting. So he's an angelic being or a soul?
He's an angelic being.
So so there are angelic beings that have incarnations.
Yes. They get like an exceptional pass occasionally. But archangels don't do it. They don't enter into the incarnation
Michael
form.
and Metatron are not coming down.
No, not in this form.
Not in this form.
But what's fascinating to me is the deduction that I had from that is anyone you interact with could be an angelic being in disguise. You wouldn't know. Isn't that a beautiful thought?
That is absolute. Well, I think I've met a couple of them along the way.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Because they seem to be, a lot of times they're there for somebody looking for help. And when you give them the help, there's just this shine in their eye. They're like, you passed. Mm-hmm. These kind of things that you run into. The first thing that popped in my head when you said angelic beings, having human experience is Nicolas Cage in City of Angels.
Totally.
It was like an angel who wanted a human experience to be with his love.
Yes.
That's Wings of Desire, the original French movie.
Oh yeah.
Which is so good. Peter Falk. Oh, so good. Sorry, I can geek out forever. I apologize.
I love the movie references.
All right, so let's go.
My body will go through convulsions and contractions. The energy center of the body is just below the navel. Mm-hmm. So that's what's called the hara in Japanese, or the dantian in Chinese, or the sacral chakra in like Indian traditions. And interesting enough, the guides are utilizing the existing energetic network that's in my body, and the contractions build an energy for my system to be ready, and then there's a connection, and that's when they start.
Okay.
So my hands will go into like different mudras. I don't control that. It's just opening certain energies and tuning in a certain way and so on.
But once you settle in, It's not like, from what I've seen at least.
There will be very subtle movements, just to not be like very robotic, because they also want this to be relatable for other humans rather than a human having an experience with a statue.
Fair enough.
Right?
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Let's rock and roll.
Greetings. We are Elohim. This journey that you have embarked on as a human being is in a great transformational process. You're recognizing that you are significantly more than the individualized life that you have been living. This identity that has formed in this current time, in this current timeline, allows you to perceive life in a specific angle, in specific circumstances. Yet, the soul that you are has lived many lifetimes and perceives life in significantly expanded ways. The part of your soul that is able to perceive life and reality from this non-dual perspective can and will be activated as the energies on this earthly plane rise. Your perception of reality and your experience of reality will, as a result of this, change. Yet not without challenge. The mind itself, the conditions, the perspectives, the unprocessed past, will desire to be understood and realized, so you can truly hold the expanded states of consciousness that are fueled by the rising energies of this earth. You are significantly more than you perceive to be. As the complexities of your being would overwhelm and challenge the mind, only the most necessary aspects of reality will be delivered to your conscious awareness. Yet this, too, is an expansion, and your conscious awareness is capable of perceiving more than it used to, through practice, through presence. Your perception of reality expands. Your perception of self expands. You start to notice the infinite nature of reality, the eternal aspect of your being, the unconditional love of creation. You start to understand that life itself, even in its temporary nature, holds endless moments, chained together for true exploration and realization. The ascension process of humanity will carry an accelerated process for all humans. Changes are part of life, yet the accelerated nature of change will challenge the mind, the heart, as well as the physical form, societal constructs, and the ecosystems established that will not withstand the test of time. Yet you are supported, you are guided, and in this delivery, there is a word of encouragement, of empowerment, of possibility. That you are not alone, that you are loved, that you are cared for. You are supported throughout this process, as long as you understand that you are being given the power to become a conscious creator of your own. That you are being uplifted to become a self-realized soul in human form. That you, as a representative of the human consciousness collective, are carried, are held through its maturation process A moment of silence, a moment of presence, will lead to moments of observation, will lead to realizations, and will lead to a greater alignment within, a strength that is yours, a resilience that is yours, to carry you through life, for you to carry others, to support each other in this great transformational time in human existence. Thank you for listening to our words. Greetings, my name is Emmanuel. You have witnessed and wondered the purpose of life, the meaning of life. You have ventured, you have sought, you have asked questions, you have consulted spirit, you have consulted masters and ancestors. Yet here you are, still wondering, which external source will give you a satisfying answer? An answer that the mind will allow to be true. A perspective that will be the next puzzle piece for the full picture. Yet truth is not delivered. Truth emerges from within. All external sources are merely an impulse, pointers. The internal truth that emerges comes with a great silence that establishes. Therefore, even these words that you receive are merely supporting mechanisms for you to find the greater truth and silence within. A true understanding of life, of reality, and of this existence. A peace, a connection to this love of creation, an ever-present, consistent, unconditional love that permeates through all of existence, that provides for all of creation. You are consistently provided and held by this unconditional love. Yet it is yours to make it consciously available, consciously present, so that you can carry that power with you in all your thoughts, emotions, in all your actions, in this reality, in this form. So you can be true vessels of love. Thank you for listening to my words. I will now answer some of your questions.
Thank you so much for being here, Manuel. My first question is, what do you and the guides see for humanity's future in these coming 5 to 10 years, as far as spiritually and also just as far as what we're in for?
The future exists in fields of probability. Therefore, every aspect of the moment that allows for the free will of humans to come together will expand into the probable future. If the future was set, it will diminish the understanding of free will and true choice as an evolving consciousness. Therefore, your choice in the moment creates the future to come. Yet certain movements and certain extrapolations of the current state of consciousness can be drawn. Therefore, certain futures are more likely to happen than others. Humanity is undergoing a great, challenging transformation, a maturation of its consciousness, an evolution, an ascension process. All aspects of the unprocessed past will be brought to surface will be brought to conscious awareness, and some will be brought to manifestation in order to be consciously observed and processed. Healing occurs in many different ways, on a mental, emotional, physical, energetic level. On a consciousness level, realizations can be processed most effectively. Yet the reality that you're experiencing, the ecosystems that you have established, the perception you have held about what life is, what reality is, about what society is, about what the future is deemed to be challenged. Great polarization is already occurring. This polarization is in itself a spark for transformation. Great polarization will lead to healing, to transformation within the individual and within the societal fabric. Healing occurs on an individual level. Therefore, every individual's healing contributes to their growth and to the growth of all of those that have been in connection, in connected lifetimes, current or past. Society heals and evolves with every individual's evolution. Therefore, hold the future with a sense of potential. Allow yourself to own the choices you have. Allow yourself to process the past through your consciousness in silence and presence, so that you can be part of the transformation, the evolution of humanity, without being part of the manifestation of the unprocessed past. Change can occur in a moment of deep presence. Just like this, you evolve. By feeling the energy of this transmission, by allowing your consciousness to expand, by realizations to emerge within your being. What else can I answer for you?
What is the greatest challenge that humanity has in these next 10, 20 years that we have to overcome for this evolution, this ascension?
The understanding that you are experiencing the illusion of separation while being an interconnected collective of consciousness. The understanding that you hold the power in this life and all aspects of this reality respond to you as a soul and as a consciousness, creating this reality into being. This will at first challenge the ego construct. It will challenge the identity you've held. It will challenge the fabric of society, as you have not fully held this power before in a conscious way. The transformation of this power from an unconscious state of being to a conscious state of being, we refer to as becoming a conscious creator. It is similar in designation to the self-realization process of the individual. What else can I answer for you?
What is the deeper purpose of Earth within the cosmic framework?
Earth serves as a platform, as an incubation space for seeded consciousness. In this case, it is in service to humanity's consciousness to evolve until its maturation. After the completion of this human form, Earth will serve as an incubation space for other forms of consciousness. Yet, until that is the case, humanity will continue to call Earth its home. It is deemed to be a safe, nurturing, loving space that challenges consciousness enough for consciousness to evolve. Yet the maturation of consciousness is not guaranteed, as consciousness, through its own choosing, its own perceiving, will evolve, mature, and ascend, completing the physical human form. The Earth, therefore, serves a powerful role, both as a representative of unconditional love, as a symbolic form, as a mother, as a caring environment, as well as the greatest challenge that you will experience. She is both the fertile ground and the teacher. She is the example. Many learnings and realizations will be derived by observing nature and the earth. Yet, the understanding of who you are is beyond the earth and will continue beyond the earth. In the great scope of consciousness evolution, there are many planetary forms like the earth that are serving in similar ways to be incubation and learning environments for consciousness. Just like this physical experience on earth, many other physical experiences have served consciousness for millions of years. Humanity is one of the recent and therefore younger forms of consciousness. Earth has served other forms before this human collective and will continue to serve after the human collective is complete. What else can I answer for you?
How can individuals move beyond ego-driven desires to realize their true self?
No matter how powerful, how fulfilling, how uplifting external circumstances will be to the ego, the soul will always direct you to a different truth. Therefore, many individuals that have achieved the ego-driven desires will recognize that the true peace and content within their being is still missing. And with time, this lack, this gap, will significantly amplify and request a different approach. No desire of the mind, no want that the external reality can provide will satisfy the soul's calling for self-realization. A new journey, the journey of self-realization, the journey of becoming a conscious creator, will unfold before you, and every human will be given the choice to choose to fulfill their moment with desires and wants, to fulfill the moment with silence and expansion of consciousness. The self-realization journey is not merely about overcoming this physical reality and the illusion that it provides. It is also about appreciating this reality, yet understanding that all these elements of this reality carry no significant importance in the grand scheme of the human evolution as a consciousness. They are merely moments of learning and experience. What else can I answer for you?
How can humanity overcome the resistance and challenges that will arise during this consciousness shift that we're all going through?
Individuals will notice that the trust that they have laid in reality and their leadership, as well as the trust in others and society, will be challenged. This will create a form of disillusionment, disheartenment, emotional response of the many times that trust was broken. Yet, where in this journey did the individual give away its own power? Where did it lose its own trust in self, in its own connection to reality, to life, to existence itself, to the unconditional love of creation? Humanity will learn through these challenges as the state of consciousness to face these challenges is shifting as well. Many individuals as well as subgroups of humanity will provide different perspectives on how to approach the upcoming challenges. Yet perspectives are merely one step. Perspectives can be divisive. Perspectives can be held as true and false. Perspectives can challenge unification and true peace. Yet if perspectives held with great reverence, that all perspectives have certain truth, and that all perspectives combined deliver the totality of truth, then humans as a collective will journey towards unification, towards a collective understanding, towards collective co-creation. You are all in the same journey. You are all in a collective evolutionary process. Therefore, everyone's transformation is your transformation, and your transformation will affect everyone else. This is the way an individual carries truly the key to the transformation of all of humanity. What else can I answer for you?
Do you have any parting messages for the audience?
Remember that no matter how big the challenge is, if you sit and allow yourself to be truly present with the challenge, allow yourself to see, to witness, to feel, to sense, to observe in as much of a neutral state as possible, the energy of the challenge will move through you. The realization will emerge, and you will find peace. At first, you will find this process incredibly challenging. You will seek to act immediately, respond. You will seek external reality to change so you can have your comfort and your peace. Yet the true transformation occurs within. And this is the journey of empowerment. that you are being gifted with, that you are being supported on. Thank you for listening to my words, and blessings on the journey ahead.
He's back.
More or less.
More or less. How was that, sir?
Great.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's always amazing.
Yeah. Do you remember much or not much?
Pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dreamlike.
Core pieces. Yeah, exactly. A bit like a dream.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Yeah, it's... I always have such an awe about it, and...
The energy was really interesting.
Yeah?
Yeah, so when the Elohim came in, their energy was very authoritative, peaceful, loving, but just strong. Mm-hmm. When Emmanuel came in, it was very kind and familiar, almost like a friend kind of energy. It was very, very different frequencies.
That's a good observation. Very, very similar how other people have described it. Yeah. I used to say that Emmanuel was like a big brother to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he kind of like held my hand and, said, everything's going to be okay. Don't worry. We got you. So that's kind of like, that developed this relationship or relational dynamic with Emmanuel.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, Asil, I'm going to ask you a few questions I ask all my guests.
Let's do it.
What is your definition of living a fulfilled life?
In some ways, I believe when we journey to find greater peace within and greater love within, and we actually get to those places, the only thing that remains while we are being in human form is service. So if we can get to a place of service from that fueled unconditional love and peace, then I do believe that is the greatest fulfillment of a human experience.
Beautiful answer. Now, if you had a chance to go back in time and speak to little Asil, what advice would you give him?
It's all going to be okay.
That's the most common answer. It's so true.
And it is so true, right? It's like everyone wishes they had that voice.
Yeah.
Everyone wishes that some guidance was there to hold them through it. But the truth is, it was there all along. It was right there. It was right there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
How do you define God or source?
Oh man, there's so many definitions and so many different layers of understanding this word. So, in my perspective, there is design in this creation, and there is forms of consciousness that have great creative ability. They are creator consciousnesses that have basically established creations of such magnitude we cannot even fathom. So worlds upon creations upon universes, right? Massive creations. And would I say they're God? Maybe, in some form perspective, right? Some people perceive any higher power than themselves as God. So there's like anything higher is God, right? And so in that sense, there is great power in consciousness. And what I perceive as there's something that the guides call grand consciousness, and they say it's the dissolution of self-aware consciousness. So when consciousness forgets itself, then it becomes grand consciousness, becomes part of the fabric of the love of creation. So in some ways, love of creation is what I would consider like the ever-present. Love is God. God is love.
And what is love?
And what is love?
What is love? Sorry.
In its purest form, unspeakable, indescribable, being one with all.
And what is the ultimate purpose of life?
Evolution. specifically the expressionless human form, I think supporting the evolution in service.
And where can people find out more about you and the amazing work you're doing in the world?
We have a nonprofit organization called Evolution One, and evolution.one is the website. We have a YouTube channel. We have significant amounts of free transmissions and workshops and retreats, sacred site missions, so much that we offer, and we want to make it as freely and widely available as possible, because that's the guidance that we have. That's why we created a nonprofit to do this work. And social media and our website, and I hope people join to experience this work for themselves, as we can go to significant depths if we do like deeper level of courses with the guides and workshops and so on.
And do you have any parting messages for the audience?
Get ready. It's gonna get potent. It's gonna get intense, and it's the time now to really make conscious effort to growth and evolution. No other time, I mean, the second best time, aside from yesterday, is today. And really establishing a strong spiritual foundation is gonna be so valuable. It's gonna be the greatest asset we can have, because everything else will not matter as much as it does today.
A lot of these constructs around us, these institutions, these ideas, social constructs, are all going to start to crumble in ways that will challenge every single human on this planet.
Absolutely. To some degree, and new constructs will establish and so on and so forth. So there's consistent churn. But the one thing that doesn't change, that no one can take away from you, is how strong and so solid you are, how aligned you are, how much capacity you have for the human experience.
Right.
And that is the resilience of the soul in human form. And I want people to have that. That's like, I want you to have that power, because it's yours. Why not hold it and carry it with grace and with love?
Asil, it has been such a pleasure having you in the studio today, man. It's been. I knew this was going to be a mind-blowing, profound conversation, and you did not disappoint, and neither did the guides, Emmanuel, everybody that was here today. The energy is so beautiful, and I appreciate you and everything you're doing to help awaken this planet, my friend. So thank you again so much.
Thank you, Alex. It's a pleasure to be here, and the work you've done is opening a lot of doors for a lot of people as well. So we are in the same boat, and everyone that's watching is part of this journey. And humanity is a lot of people, and a lot of people will need our support. So let's do it.
Appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.